Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of How in the World is Ohio State Going to Replace This Guy? I am Tony Gerdeman from BuckeyeHuddle.com, also from the Buckeye Weekly podcast, and back with looking at how Ohio State is going to replace all of their departed starters. Have already touched on a number of positions recently. I had to take a break because of the NFL Combine, so we are back here. Going to have to finish this thing up quickly before spring ball starts in about a week. So today we're going to be talking about the running back position. And if you want to talk about how Ohio State is going to replace somebody, there's maybe no bigger losses than what the Ohio State Buckeyes have to replace at running back with TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins, both of whom rushed for 1,000 yards last year. Judkins led the team with 1,060 yards on 194 carries. 14 touchdowns. TreVeyon Henderson right behind him with 1,016 yards on 50 fewer carries, 144 carries, scoring 10 touchdowns, averaging a team high 7.1 yards per carry. All told, those two guys, remarkable careers. Quinshon Judkins in 3 years as a college player finished with 3,785 yards rushing. TreVeyon Henderson in his 4 years finished with 3,761 yards rushing. So that's 7,500 yards total that you'll be replacing this year for the Buckeyes. And those 3,761 yards rushing for TreVeyon Henderson is 5th all-time in school history, just 7 yards behind Eddie George, who rushed for 3,768 yards. So that's the kind of company that TreVeyon Henderson was in. And of course, both of those guys, in their 7 total years of college football, basically 7 years of starting. TreVeyon Henderson started the first half of last year. Quinshon Judkins started the second half of last year. And they just worked extremely well together because when Ohio State got down the stretch, when they were playing the playoffs, nobody was fresher than those two guys, and it showed. And TreVeyon Henderson never looked faster than he did in January, running away from January defenders who were playing in their 15th and 16th and 14th games. He looked like the most dynamic player in the sport, not named Jeremiah Smith. So that's who Ohio State is replacing. It's not a light task. And Ohio State running backs coach Carlos Loughlin went to the portal and brought in West Virginia running back C.J. Donaldson, who himself was at 3 years at West Virginia, has rushed for 2,058 yards, has started, a dozen or so games, has rushed for 100 yards in a game in each of his 3 seasons, an experienced guy, a bigger guy, the guy who was, as a recruit, was like a 6'2", 215-pound receiver, so he was automatically considered a tight end recruit. Signs at West Virginia as a tight end, almost immediately moves to running back. Played it was listed at 238 pounds last year, 6'2", 238. He's already down to about 230 now at Ohio State. Carlos Loughlin wants him to drop some weight. Not sure how much further he wants him to get, but he's already down to about 230. That's what Loughlin told all of us on Friday. So he's the experienced guy. But the leader of the room is likely going to be James Peoples, a sophomore who finished 4th on the team last year with 197 yards rushing on 49 attempts, just 4 yards a carry, but was not asked to do much. And when he was in the games, the defense knew he was going to be running the ball because he's running the clock out. So this year, he is the guy, or he's going to be one of the 2 guys or 3 guys, because again, they don't need a workhorse. They don't need a bell cow workhorse, 25 carries a game. That's not what they want for a 16-game season. So he's going to be splitting carries, but when he has those carries, expect something good, because when TreVeyon Henderson compares him to J.K. Dobbins, that means something to me. When Carlos Loughlin is already talking about him as a leader, that means something to me. Talking to James Peoples myself, when he mentions that last year was not easy because he expected to play more, but you've got TreVeyon Henderson and Quinshon Judkins ahead of you, so you're not going to play more. So what can you do? You can learn everything you can from those 2 guys. And that's what he did. So he's going to show some good things this year on the football field. I think everybody's confident in that. Sam Williams-Dixon, who was also a member of the 2024 recruiting class like James Peoples, hit the portal towards the end of the season, came back. Carlos Locklear was able to bring him back and talk to him about just the width and the breadth of what Ohio State can do for him. And so he's back. We'll see what that leads to in terms of playing time this season. This spring, he's going to have two true freshmen really pushing him in Bo Jackson and Isaiah West. Third freshman, Turbo Rogers, won't get here until June. But Bo Jackson, Isaiah West, two really talented guys. I think Bo Jackson was a top 5 running back in the class, depending on which recruiting service you subscribe to. But he's already up to 220 pounds, according to Locke. 6 foot, 220, fast. Basically, if you're going to be a running back named Bo Jackson, you better be big and you better be fast. And he is that. And we'll see more this spring. But again, it's difficult for running backs to show too much in the spring because there's not going to be much tackling, especially this year. And then Isaiah West, I think he's listed right now at about 5'11", 215. So these are good-sized running backs who can deliver blow and take one as well. So that's what Ohio State will have working this spring. And, there's not going to be a ton of padded practices this spring. They'll have helmets, but there's not going to be a lot of hitting. There'll be enough because the thing is, like, the young guys, you've got to get them going. Like, you've got to get them some work. You've got to get the offensive line some work. You've got to get the defensive line some work. So they all kind of go hand in hand, but it's not going to be the most physical spring practice that you're going to see. But there's enough there to get these young guys enough work to make it worth their while. And really, the spring is for these young guys and getting them just up to speed with what practice is like at Ohio State. Get them up to speed on what it's like being coached by Carlos Locklear. Get the ball up, get your feet right, get your eyes where they need to be. All of these little things that sometimes players may get a little lazy with or take for granted. It's not going to happen with Carlos Locklear because he's going to be on it. So he's going to get those young guys ready for fall camp. When I say young guys, they're pretty much all young except for CJ Donaldson. But with James Peoples, I think in terms of the best bet to start, I'm going to ride with James Peoples on this one. I think he is, I've said it before, it kind of reminds me just of, imagine if you put a lawnmower motor on a Roomba and just let it go in your house. Like he's low, he bounces off of people, he's fast, good vision, remembers where he can and he can't go, and then he knows he can get back to the sideline to charge back up. So basically, very, very talented, and I think he's going to have a good year, big year. Now, I can't say big year, like relatively, like Quinshon, Judkins, and TreVeyon Henderson last year took all of 16 games for each one of those guys to hit 1,000 yards. The carries are going to be split, but I think you're looking at another 1,000-yard rusher with James Peoples. He's got that kind of ability, and he's going to hit some home runs, but also he's just going to be, I think, a consistent gainer. Maybe a little bit of a combination of Quinshon, Judkins, and TreVeyon Henderson. And then what they get out of CJ Donaldson, we'll see. Veteran presence who isn't just a ball carrier, can catch the ball out of the backfield, but it can also be a pass protector, which was something that TreVeyon Henderson excelled at last year as well. So all of the little things we'll figure out along the way where they each kind of reside and where they excel, and then don't forget about Bo Jackson back there as well. Carlos Locklear talks awfully highly about him, and he's got a ton of potential. Ryan Day really likes him as well. So there might be times where Ryan Day is in Locke's ear, like, hey, what about Bo? What about Bo? And so they've got some talent. They've got, it'll be fun to see how they all mesh and what they all look like running behind a pretty new offensive line, but not necessarily entirely new. And certainly with a new quarterback, but at least they've got some receivers that they can build off of. But that's a story for another day. There you go. Recapping the running backs, how they're going to replace TreVeyon Henderson, Quinshon Judkins. They've got the talent to do it. Will they have 2,000-yard rushers again this year? I don't know. I think maybe they're a little bit deeper than they were last year, so maybe there won't be the need for a second 1,000-yard rusher. Maybe an 1,100-yard rusher, an 800-yard rusher, and like a 400-yard rusher, something like that. But don't hold me to that. So there you go. If you could hit the thumbs up if you're watching this on YouTube, but we would appreciate that. Hit the bell to be notified because we'll be dropping videos like this, live show, spring practice, 1 week from today. So we're going to have all kinds of stuff from the Woody on that. Should be there that first day. We'll give you a live recap of everything that we saw and heard and all of those good things. So definitely sign up for the channel if you've not yet done so. And of course, sign up for BuckeyeHuddle.com, where we're talking about all of these things on the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. So you find that there. We're already talking about some things you're hearing behind the scenes, so you can find that there. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.